Hey, everybody, welcome. This is the Intentional Optimist, Andrea Johnson, and I am here with my friend Beth Hewitt. And if you have not, here I'm going to play around with how we look at things here for just a minute. If you have not listened to today's podcast episode, you should, because Beth is the special guest on today's podcast episode. And it's not usual that I do the podcast release and that day then do a live, but there's a reason. We're kind of pushing this teaching a little bit closer to, well, a lot closer to when the podcast episode comes out for specific reasons. And that is that she's got an amazing challenge coming up on December 1st. So welcome, Beth.
Thank you so much. And I'm totally privileged that you've pulled all the stops out to do this, to make this happen as well. So thank you so much.
Oh, you know what? These days going live is just like, I mean, literally, I was just joking because we're actually going live in 3 places today, where it's like on my page and on my business page and in the Facebook group. And in the Facebook group, we will actually slide this one over under the guides so that it is always there. And hang on, evidently, there's something on my phone. Beth, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you, for people who don't know you yet?
Jesus is the light.
Sure, no problem. So everybody, I'm Beth Hewitt. I am a spiritual performance coach, and I really focus on visualization and helping predominantly women, but also men as well, go from feeling unfulfilled to passionately living their life purpose. And I do that through visualization and performance coaching and other things as well. And one of the things that I'm incredibly passionate about is gratitude, which is what we're going to be talking about today, because for me, that's the basis of being able to manifest and use visualization and do all of that good stuff as well. If you've got a good basis of gratitude, it can really help you do that.
Well, and sorry about that, y'all. I don't know why, but my phone just started playing the podcast I was listening to this morning while I was getting dressed. So it's this week's She Reads Truth podcast. If you're interested, it's really good. I haven't finished it, clearly. I have to rewind that part. But if you haven't listened to today's episode, one of the things that I was really struck with when we talk about this gratitude thing is that, I was just listening to She Reads Truth, and I'm a Christian, so we come from slightly different spiritual perspectives, but the beauty of talking about gratitude is that it is pretty universal. And I, in our conversation on the podcast, felt a good bit of what I would call like conviction. It's like, oh my goodness. I'm the one that's supposed to be grateful for everything. And I mean, that's just part of Christian teachings. And there's lots and lots and lots of passages that we could cite that would talk about it. And I realized that I wasn't always grateful and that I'm not always practicing that the way I want to. And I did last year participate lightly in your gratitude challenge. I did not wholeheartedly dive in. So the simple fact that you're offering it again makes me really excited to know that I can learn from you and that I can be a part of it a little bit more intentionally this year is really exciting to me. But one of the comments that I really pulled out of the podcast and was that gratitude is kind of the basis for everything. And you just basically said that it taps into abundance, and being grateful for the little things means that we're open to the big things and makes us have the ability to be grateful for the big things. And so basically what I wanted you to be able to do is to come in here and to tell us the basics so that people could get an idea of what it might be like to be in the gratitude challenge. And then to kind of whet our appetite a little bit. And even if they're not able to participate, I'll give them a little bit of a place to start because my lights are going on and off. This is interesting. So why don't you give us a little bit, and I will chime in a few places because I have started a few of the practices that you challenged me with in the podcast. So I can pipe up on a couple of things and share. Yeah. So why don't you go ahead and share, and I'm going to see if I can check some comments and see if we've got any of those coming through.
Great. Yeah. So one of the things I want to touch on first of all is what you said at the beginning of that there was around, not going in full in to do gratitude every day, because we feel like we have to do that, but we don't have to do that. Gratitude, we should be grateful for things, but also we should be able to feel all of the emotions of all of the other stuff that's going on. So it's okay not to give gratitude every single day. The idea behind the gratitude challenge was really to give people the skills, first of all, to know how to identify gratitude, because we all go about our lives every day taking so much for granted. And so that was the whole kind of reason for doing the challenge in the first place. So when I did it last year, so it was exactly this time last year, we'd all come through 2020, that horrible year that was. And I really wanted to give people that space to find gratitude in something that had been incredibly hard for everybody in lots of different ways. And so that's why I started it last year. And so this year's challenge, it's similar to last year, but it's also got some new added bits as well. So I'm really excited, Andrea, that you're going to be joining and doing it more intentional this year, because there's lots more coming with this challenge this year.
Well, I went in and read the instructions.
Took me a while to
She's
write those
not
instructions.
joking, y'all. This is a real challenge. And I mean, it is one of those, I don't mean for it to sound like it was overwhelming, but I was like, oh, this is not, look, it's not like one of those, everybody come in and just tell us what you're grateful for each day. You've got some real serious instruction, some real serious rules to follow around this challenge in the group, and some real encouragement and kind of I don't know, uplifting us to be able to do it each day and to be able to be in it each day. And you're in it for the long haul. This is December 1 through 31. Yeah.
We break Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and Boxing Day, but it is the full month. And yeah, I've created the rules not to scare anybody off or make it too onerous. It is more, let's get the rules out of the way, but let's be intentional. Let's be really focused, and let's put our all into doing this so that you can get the most out of it.
Sure.
Let's get the most impact out of it. So that's why I created they took me ages to create those rules as well. So
well,
I'm glad that you read them.
I did. I read all of them. There's quite a few sentences there in all caps, right? And so, as someone who had a mother who used to like text in all caps because she just didn't know any better, every once in a while I'm like, oh, surely she doesn't. And like, oh yeah, that's important. Read that really loud. But just maybe a few takeaways from last year. What were the main takeaways that you got from the people who participated? Because last year was, and when we talk last year, we mean 2020 was really hard. And so a gratitude practice at the end was really smart. And then 2021 has turned out to be almost just as hard in different ways. Yeah. And I heard someone today, actually, it was on that podcast I was listening to this morning, talking about how she's convinced that it's possible that we're never going to have like easy all the time anymore. It's always going to be, all right, how are we smiling and learning and growing in the midst of this hardship, whatever it is, if it's COVID or something else. And so I think it's just as appropriate this year. But what were the major takeaways that people shared with you last year?
I think last year it was people just being able to find gratitude in everyday stuff when they know they've had a really difficult year. And I think a lot of people got a takeaway from the fact that you're appreciating stuff outwardly, publicly, with other people, whereas normally gratitude is a practice that we do inwardly or on a piece of paper or at the beginning or start of day. And we don't actually share that with other people. But actually the beauty of gratitude when you share it with other people is that it allows people to flourish and grow. You know yourself, if you appreciate your partner for something, you can see how they want to give more of themselves to you, like watering a flower or whatever. And so I think for me, my takeaway was seeing that the power of being grateful in a public environment, because we don't do that enough. We do it, it's an inward practice. That's what we're developing, a habit that we can do individually wherever we are throughout the day, but also doing it in that community environment, I think, was incredibly eye-opening for me and very empowering for a lot of people.
That's a really, really good takeaway. And boy, do we all need it. I mean, we really need it. I just, last week's podcast was on gratitude, and I finally shared some things I was grateful for from my favorite high school teacher. I've been meaning to tell him for years. And it's been like almost 40 years, 40 plus years. And I finally said these things out loud. And just being able to share things out loud to another person. When you share what you're grateful for, I realize, oh, that may be something I'm grateful for. So
Yeah.
that's another really, really good idea. Plus, I'll bet when we do it inside the group and when we do it together in community, that it's not isolated there either. It probably comes out to other places, right? I mean,
Yeah.
in other places
That
in your life.
I mean, that was some of the other feedback is that people were telling me, like, when they went to the supermarket or when they went to get coffee with a friend, they were thinking outside of the community. They were thinking of what they can appreciate as they were going about their day, which is the ideal. It's okay to
Yeah.
have a habit, like we say, in the morning or in the evening, but wouldn't it be better just to have an automatic habit when you're going about your day? You don't have to think about
Absolutely.
it. Well, you don't need to write it down. So it doesn't need to be a chore.
Right.
It's just there. Just
We don't have to
natural.
think about it. It just
Yeah.
comes up.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that sounds great. So why don't I let you dive in? You said
Mhm.
we were going to give us 5.
So it's kind of 5 levels of gratitude, but they are, I suppose, they're not in any particular order. You can stack them in any which way you want to go with them. But these are kind of 5 things that I think really build on each other to help you create a really good gratitude practice.
Okay.
And I'll go through those now, but we're going to be going them in more detail during the challenge as well. So if you want to
Okay.
find out more about this during the challenge, please
And
do.
just for anybody watching or paying attention, we will add in the comments a link to the challenge, a link to your podcast, and anything else that we mentioned. We will try. Beth and I will get in there and we'll add to the comments, and we'll try to add everything in. So, all right, hit us with the different levels of gratitude.
So I've said it a few times already, but for me, the first level of gratitude is everyday gratitude. And when I talk about everyday gratitude, I mean being appreciative of the things that we take for granted, like the tomatoes in our fridge, or the petrol or gas, diesel, whatever your car takes in the petrol, in the tank, or just having a nice family meal with your family, or the clothes that you wear. So it's being able just to look around you and go, do you know what? I really like this pen because it allows me to write a to-do list or to
Erase.
write
Erase.
scribble something out, yeah. Or I don't know, write a thank you card or write my Christmas cards, whatever's coming up. I mean, how often would we appreciate a pen? We wouldn't do that, would we really?
Yeah.
We would take it for granted. So the first level for me is just really being able to witness, throughout that first week of the gratitude challenge, everyday gratitude. And when people say, "Oh, I don't know where to start," or "I'm not sure what I've got," I mean, even if you just compare ourselves to our ancestors, just 100 years ago or 10 years ago, 20 years ago, how far things have progressed. It's not that difficult then to say, actually, I'm really appreciative of electricity or this fast car,
modern medicine.
Modern medicine, exactly. So it is. I want to kind of demyth that it's difficult when it's really isn't, because we've got so much to be grateful for, and it's just there when we just look around the room or wherever we are.
Well, and maybe to overcome, because I know I'm this kind of person. I usually preface certain things with, I know this sounds like a duh moment, but because we don't want to be Captain Obvious, and we don't want to be the person who's grateful for the pen or my dog, but the reality is we have to start somewhere. And when we start with the really simple, obvious things, it's probably going to lay a foundation for us to be grateful in other areas.
Yeah, and that's one of the things as well. So each day in the challenge, I'll say, what are the 3 things today that you want to be grateful for? And it's really easy for us to give the same 3 things to be grateful for every single day.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm really asking, let's expand that. How, and by the end of that 30 days, you've got whatever 90 different things that you've been grateful for, or more, because you come up with lots more things as well.
That sounds exciting. This is good. Okay, the everyday stuff.
Everyday gratitude, everyday stuff, everything around you. So the second level, it can go anywhere, is about kind of the people in your life, the places that you've been or the places that you love to go, and your kind of the experiences that you've had throughout your life. So there's a lot to go out there. But it comes back to what we're saying about, appreciating your spouse, or appreciating a friend, or appreciating somebody who had, like you said, this high school teacher from long ago that we've not yet given appreciation for whatever reason. So it's really taking stock of those people that we have in our life and being grateful for them. And for the places that we've been, whether it's, you know, a cozy coffee house or a wonderful holiday you've been on, or just a tree in a field, whatever that means to you, it can be absolutely anything. And then just those experiences that we have that we can be grateful for, just starting to think about those experiences that we have. And, you know, even sometimes those negative experiences, you know, things that were not good at the time,
Yeah.
you know, and you get deeper into the layers, the final kind of, which we'll come on to, is that ability to flick that switch, you know, when difficult things are happening, not you know, paving over it, not admitting or, you know, giving the time to think about what is actually going on in that moment, because we have to feel all of those emotions. But if we could have those skills and tools to flick that switch when we needed to, when we were ready, I've had enough now, this is time for me to change my perspective, my mindset, to flick that switch on and go, actually, that experience wasn't good in that time, but now this is the lesson, this is the experience, this is the positive from
Yeah. Well, and you know, that's a lot of times the people are the ones that we keep wanting to say that the same three are my husband, my son, and my dog.
dog.
Right. And so I think it's great to rotate through and have a whole different group, but at the same time, reminding us that, you know, we've lived in places that were hard. We've had jobs that were hard. And just this morning, my husband and I had a conversation about, if we hadn't lived in that place, then if we hadn't lived in Baltimore, my son would not be with us. That's where we adopted my son, or my mother had breast cancer surgery there. I mean, there's just different things as you look back and you can see them and be able to say what I learned or what I gained from that, or if I hadn't been there, I wouldn't have experienced that part. And so do you find that in this particular area, people it's more backward looking gratitude, or?
A little bit, yeah. So, I mean, for kind of people and pets, I mean, by the end of the challenge, we know, everybody knows everybody's cats and dogs. You know, we know all of the names. I know so many of the names from last year's. You know, they're coming along to the challenge this year. But then for the experience and stuff, yeah, you do have to go. You have to go back a little bit.
Cool.
And as far as you want to go, you know, whatever comes up.
Excellent.
So we're going to the next layer.
Yeah. So we have everyday stuff. We have people, places, and experience. And what's next?
So the next is around, so kind of two different camps, but similar, is kind of our superpowers, which I know when Andrea came onto my podcast, I asked Andrea about her superpowers. I always ask people what their superpowers are, because I feel like we don't pat ourselves on the back enough about our superpowers. Those things that come to us naturally, that we are kind of the go-to gal or go-to guy for, and we don't give ourselves enough credit, because these are things that are innate and that we do all of the time. But they are our superpowers. That's what I like to call them. And the other side of that is kind of our zone of genius.
Yeah.
So this could be the things that you learn. Maybe you've got some education or certain skill sets, and that is your zone of genius. That's what you could talk about at the drop of a hat. That's what you could stand up and speak about. So superpowers and zone of genius, and when we talk about kind of those kind of things as well.
Do you find that people know what they are?
Yes and no, I would say. Yeah. I think some people do. Some people have got that self-awareness. And I mean, and other people, I mean, it's always like, it's good to ask. I think it's always good to ask, what do you think I'm good at? Because you get a lot of kind of insight into what people think of you as well, and what, you know.
I'm sure we've all seen those Facebook posts where my coach told me to ask this on Facebook.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing, ladies and gentlemen. They're actually finding out what other people say. If you don't go to your close friends or close relatives or coworkers to say, what am I really good at? Or what do you come to me for advice for? Because you can look at those things yourself. But a lot of times people will actually, I've done it myself and had people share things that I was almost embarrassed to hear because they were so beautiful. And to know that other people see those things in you, and then to be able to turn around and be grateful for them, I think is for some reason, we don't want to do that for ourselves.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
And to just kind of I was reading in Noom this morning. It said, put your hand out like this out in front of you and reach over and pat yourself on the back. You've done this many lessons. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know where it was going. Put your arm out. I'm like, for real? I'm reading this on an app. And then go like this. I'm
Pat
like,
yourself on the
that
back.
feels a little silly, but it matters, right? It's the same thing. You said it. Pat ourselves on the back. Okay. So, so do you think people know the difference between superpowers and zones of genius?
No, and that's what I try to explain during the challenge. So the superpowers are kind of the innate, and your zone of genius are kind of, I see as the things that you've learned along the way,
and
that you've really enhanced, and been taught, or you've put in the practice. You've done all the work to make it something that's really, really good.
Cool.
And they merge together. These superpowers and our zone of genius merge together.
Well, they should enhance the other.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So for me, what did I say? I think my superpower is relating, and is being able to relate to people, and being able to use my skills and expertise without being able to relate to someone. Then I become very preachy and didactic, Whereas if I can relate to you, then you feel seen and you feel heard and you feel helped, and it feels strategic, right? So those things have to work together. But anyway, I digress. So that's the first 3. What's number 4?
Yeah. So number 4 is your achievements. Some of the big achievements that you have. It doesn't need to be big. It could be it's, really up to interpretation, really. But something that you are incredibly proud of. That maybe you don't pat yourself on the back. Maybe you don't shout about it. Maybe you go, oh, I put on an event for 300 people, but I'm not going to tell anybody about it unless I'm sat in a job interview and telling them about my skill set. Why should we wait until interviews to shout and blow our own trumpet? What are some of these big achievements that you've had, whether that's raising a family or building a house or whatever that is, whatever that means for you. And really just sharing those with people. And then what we found happened last time was as we shared these things, other people would go, oh my goodness, I didn't know that. I've also got that experience. And you start to build these common bonds and friendships over similarities. Yeah.
Nice. That sounds good. Yeah. And we like to talk in my community about just all the little wins. I had a coach say to me that many of us have, what do you call it? Success amnesia.
Yeah.
Like we totally forget where we've succeeded. And they were like, especially Enneagram type, which is a 6. They said, you're ripe for that. You're always pushing on to the next thing. So you have to make sure you celebrate the small wins. So in my community, we do that every Saturday. And then in my Facebook group, we do that on the Wednesdays. So we call them WIN Wednesdays. So we try to do small achievements. So anybody in the group, when you see those Wednesday posts, that's what she's talking about. Celebrate achievements. So,
it's important. Yeah.
Cool.
And then the final step is what I was saying earlier on is that ability then to take all of that and to go, do you know what, I'm going through a difficult time right now, or my vibration is low, or depending, what kind of way you work with spirit or whatever
energy,
whatever you're into, and it's being able to flick that switch and go, I'm grateful. I've got something to be grateful for. Even in the darkest of times, there's something to be grateful for. So it's kind of pulling all of that together and being intentional and knowing that you've got that choice. In any given moment, you have that choice to make that intentional move and change and pivot into whatever direction you want to go.
Yeah. So you early on said these are not really in order, but they kind of feel like they are.
Well, I think they are a little bit, but I think when I was putting it together, you kind of, I think the middle 3, I think could go in any order. I think let's start with everyday gratitude and let's end, with flicking the switch. But superpower, zone of genius, achievements, experiences, people.
I can see that.
I think they're all kind of muddled together. And I think people put different, some of those might be higher up for other people because they put more,
Value.
emphasis on value on relationships or friendships.
Sure.
Or family. So I think the middle three are open for interpretation, but no right or wrong.
I can see that. It's like a Teletubby. It's like one here, and then a big brown thing in the middle.
It's got like a big head, some little feet, and then just a big belly in the middle of all this big mix of stuff.
So I am excited to get into this. I wanted to tell you that one of the things you shared in the podcast is that your habit is, and this is part of your gratitude practice. And I'm sure in the challenge, you will get into practices and ways of doing things. It's not just, these are the levels that we're grateful for. She's not going to leave you high and dry and expect you to just figure out how to do it all. I'm, as much as I know you and as much as I did last time, I know that there's like specific assignments so that we kind of develop the types of habits and practices we need. But one of the things that you and I talked about on the podcast was every week you sit down and you write 10 things that you're grateful for. And then as part of your visualization process, you then write 3 things that you'd like to see happen in the next week.
Yeah.
Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, I was wondering where I was trying to remember what I said on the podcast.
It's recorded. It's recorded.
I should be listening back to it. Yeah,
all of us are like that. Us talkers are like that. It's like, I said what? And then I just go back and, oh yeah, I said that thing. It was really good. But I wanted to, and I expressed to you that I have a planner that I was trying to do that in. And I noticed that there's not enough room in this little section on my planner to write the things that I tried that. The first week, it was like 10 all crammed in this little space. Yeah. And then I realized that's not going to work. So I actually pulled my journal that I also use with my planner, and I did a whole journal page of 10 things.
Yeah, that's what I
that was so much easier.
Yeah, it was. I was trying to see, I've got a drawer here, whether I've got any books to hand, because I've got so many different journals. But yeah, I've got like
my journals are not here.
I've got hundreds of journals where I do that.
Yeah. And it made a difference because I could then, on the left-hand side, I could see I had these 10 things that I'm grateful for. And then on the right-hand side, I started so what are 3 things that I want to see happen in the next week? And this gets into a little bit of visualization, and we're not really going there this week, but I think that you probably get into that a little bit in your gratitude challenge because that's all part of it, right?
Yeah, so the final week is about creating your vision for 2022. So I'll go into kind of the basics of what I do in my practice.
Yeah. So the very first week, it was like, I want to do da 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 da. Like, I don't think that's how it's supposed to work. I think it's supposed to be, I did this da 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 thing. Or I made this happen, or now I am at this place and I feel this way. And I think that's a little bit about how it's supposed to work. But y'all don't take it from me. Beth is leading the challenge. She the teacher here, not me. I am just the mouthpiece. But we'll get into that in the challenge. And I did want to say though, it is actually changing the way I think in 3 weeks.
Wow.
Doing it incorrectly.
Well, we've got to start somewhere, haven't we? Sometimes we just got to move forward.
Doing it even, broken, not perfectly. It's changing the way I think. Wow. And and I had hit a little bit of a, I don't know. I'm an Enneagram 6. I just hit these walls, and it's just, I don't want to do this stuff anymore. And then it's like, wait a minute. I have this and this and this and this and this, and I'm thankful for this and this and this and this and this. What's wrong with me? And yesterday it was just like a flip switch. And so I just wanted to kind of give that little testimony here to say, even when I'm doing it incorrectly and flawed and in my own personal little way, without any direction other than what you said on the podcast, it's possible, y'all. It is possible to think differently. And it is basic neuroscience. It is basic psychology. It is basic spiritual truth from just about any direction, that when we think differently, we act differently. And
when we get intentional.
Yes, when we get intentional about it, especially when we are grateful for things. So we're going to put in the notes. I'm going to let you wrap us up here in a second, but we will put in we'll post after this all the places where they can sign up and all that kind of thing. Is there anything they should know or that you would like to close out with that we haven't yet covered?
I don't think so. I think, let's not overcomplicate it. I think get into a habit of gratitude, learn how to do that, find all those amazing different ways to do that. Let me help you do that in the challenge if you want to come and do that with us throughout December. I know it's a busy month for everybody, but I felt like, you know what, because it is busy, it's even more important to take the time to give gratitude. So if we can tackle it in December, then we can tackle it any time in the year.
Well, and for those of us in my spiritual area, Martin Luther, the famous German theologian and pastor and teacher, told somebody, on the days that I have more, I actually pray more, because it's just that whole, it's a mindset, right? It's like you have to, he needed that grounding time in the morning to get more done. And I think that you're right. A lot of times we need that no matter what. Approximately how much time per day should someone expect? You don't know?
Yeah, so 5 minutes.
Okay. For the
prompts
challenge.
The prompts will drop. I think they're going to drop in the midnight UK time. So whatever time that is, I mean, it doesn't matter.
That's yesterday for us.
Exactly. So whenever you see the
tomorrow.
post, just jump in. You're giving gratitude for 3 things. There's also a journaling prompt, which isn't a prompt to take away. It's literally just put a comment underneath the image, whatever comes to mind, and then get on with your day. So that's the basis for the full month. On the second week of the challenge, that is when we do the live trainings throughout the week. So there'll be more of a task Monday to Friday, which is around kind of the things that we've been talking about today. There'll be more of a task. There'll also be lives in the evening, so you can ask me questions about how you found the task. And then it'll go back. So after that week's done, it'll go back to doing the 3, easing back into giving gratitude again. So
as it gets super duper busy. And y'all, you can see here, Beth is super approachable and personable and easy to talk to and easy to ask questions. And to clarify, this is completely free.
It is.
It's completely free. And so happy holidays, and our gift to you. So we will put all of that below. And I am really excited about this, because seeing what I did in just the last 3 weeks, I am really excited to see if I really get intentional about it. Because, I'm the intentional optimist. I need to be more. If I'm not constantly growing, then I'm dying. Right. So for me, this is just a great area of growth. So I'm really excited about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun. And thank you for getting the podcast out as well this week.
Yeah. So if you haven't listened to her interview, it's the very latest episode. I believe it's number 62 that dropped today on Monday, the 29th of November. Oh my gosh, it's my husband's birthday. I shouldn't have to look at the watch. The presents are wrapped and they're upstairs. So it dropped today, and it's a great interview. You're really going to enjoy learning her story and hearing some amazing things about her. She also has a podcast called Visualize You. And she has her own Facebook group that when you join the challenge, you have the option of, you can be in there, and that's where you get all the information. So thank you so much, Beth. And I look forward to getting started on this challenge.
Yay.
All right, y'all, have a great one.
Okay.